Awesome. Okay. Hey, guys. How are you both doing? Alex, very different background. How's it going?
Bright and early in Seattle, and very bright sun behind me that'll probably continue to shine on the screen, but that's okay. Doing good.
And how are you doing, Jeff?
It's similarly bright here in Seattle, and I hope this good weather lasts for one week and 2 more days. We have a family wedding coming up in 9 days, and we need the weather to be good because it's happening in our backyard. So
Oh my
let's
God.
hope for the best.
Oh yeah, fingers crossed. That is
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure I'm sending good vibes. We've got I'm taking a bunch of people from my gym to a competition next weekend for the first time, and it's meant to be 31 degrees, which I have no idea what that is in you guys' temperature, but it's hot, and so I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna go to the store. I'm gonna buy like massive bottles of water, like sun cream hats, being like a mom on a trip. But yeah, hopefully the good weather sticks around.
I hope so. We have to wait for sometime into July before we can have any confidence at all about Seattle summer weather.
4th of July is usually the cutoff. Like you always rains on 4th of July, and then we have like beautiful weather after that. So hopefully, I have a wedding this Friday as well that I'm actually officiating. So it better be.
Oh my God,
day.
Alex!
I know.
That's so cool. Jeez, that's amazing. And while we're talking about backgrounds, like before we get into the show, Jeff, your background, I'm just enthralled by, and I was like, we'll save it for the show. What is going on back there? You have so many like Easter egg. I've just noticed a little lambda thing. We've got trucks.
This is all fun stuff, and I'm in the middle of a very long process to make my home office the way I really want it. And for several years, I was in the upstairs part of our house, and then last year about this time, we had this incredible heat wave in Seattle, and my home office got to be absolutely unusable. Like it was.
Oh no!
No matter what we did, I couldn't actually cool the house down enough so the office wasn't awful. And so we had this nice big room in the basement, which I managed to convince my wife would be a better place for my home office. And so it used to be our guest room, but we didn't have enough guests. And so, well, I'm here all the time, so I should really have this room.
Yeah.
So it's still temporary. I don't know. Let me switch to my other camera here if you can kind of see another kind of a view here.
Oh, wow.
But I finally have, let's see, I'm back to that view. I've been working with a designer and a bunch of folks to like design a really awesome home office that looks really good on camera. We've got a good design. We've got paint. And one of the final things in another corner of my office, I have this wiring cabinet that was here when we moved in the house like 6 years ago. You know, like where people would put their media center, their amplifiers, and all their gadgets. Well, I never actually looked in it because we just set one thing up and it was fine. And the design says, well, we need to move that cabinet up a little bit. And I opened it up and it was 3 generations of the leftover wires of old tech. And it's like, This is a huge mess. And I tweeted it out a couple of days ago, and people were giving me a lot of good suggestions for how to disentangle it. But my goal is to have all of my work and all of my hobbies together in one place here. I have a lot of hobbies that I like to, they're kind of wind them up and start them going and then do my work. And so I find that having this like work hobbies lifestyle where you mostly do your work, but occasionally you like step aside and to take your break, you make your break be something actually useful.
Yeah, right? Productive kind of thing.
Yeah, something productive, you know, the next step on whatever Lego thing I'm assembling or whatever 3D thing I'm printing. My 3D printer's over there printing some containers right now. But I like to be somewhat multi-threaded and have a lot of good stuff going on at the same time. So I've got 3D
strong believer in that. Yeah. I'm a strong believer in that. I have a puzzle table in my office that I like to just go to, and when I need a minute, you got to step away. You need optimize my time while we're optimizing our AWS customers here.
Oh wow, look at that tagline.
I think it's a good skill. It's a really good skill, and it's actually really important to have things that you do that aren't just your job, that are things that you pursue with some energy and that are somewhat medium to long term, that you say, hey, this is something that's interesting to me, something I find fulfilling. Maybe you create something valuable. Maybe it also gives you some skills that you can use on the job as well. And whenever you create new things and you create a little bit of content and some social media around it. Well, that's a useful thing we can all do in our jobs.
Yeah. Well, we were just talking before we came on camera that I was at FinOps X the other week, and I pulled in loads of videos of people, and I'm editing it together, and I've got my GoPro here. I don't know, it's just on my desk for some reason, that I film anything fun I do. Alex is a witness to that, and I just edit it together at the end of the year and make a fun video, and I now can use that when I do work stuff. So it's quite good to have that overlap. All right, I'll do go on, Jeff. Sorry.
No. That idea of sometimes just capturing little bits of extra life and extra content, you don't always know exactly why you're doing it, but just having that little bit of repertoire of that's an interesting picture or a quick little video clip, that you're never quite sure what you might use it for, but I think personalizing what you do with things you created on your own versus, well, here's a stock photo that is something that's somewhat adequate. That authenticity, I think, really comes through.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, right. So we'll do so welcome everyone to the Keys to AWS Optimization, the show where we share stories, concepts, and solutions to help you unlock your spend at AWS. My name is Stephanie Gooch. I'm a commercial architect at AWS.
And my name is Alex Head, and I lead the optimization team optics for our strategic industries.
And I'm Jeff Barr,
and Jeff.
I'm super happy to be our guest here today.
Yeah, we are super happy to have you. So today we're going to be talking about a couple of different things. So if you have any questions for Jeff in general or about optimization, then always feel free to pop them in the chat. And if you want to get in touch with us afterwards, you can always email us at costoptimization@amazon.com. Any questions about optimization, or feel free to comment under the video if you're watching us on YouTube. Right. So Jeff, I feel like people know who you are, but do you want to give us a bit of a background about what you do at AWS, a bit of an origin story kind of thing?
Sure. So I'm coming up on my 20-year anniversary at AWS.
Wow.
That's going to happen sometime late August, so really, really soon. And I came on board at the very beginning of our effort to actually take things we were building at Amazon and put web services in front of them to make them available to developers. So literally 20 years ago, this past spring, we launched the very, very first service that I became aware of, and it basically gave developers access to the Amazon product catalog and the shopping cart. I saw that first service, and it really spoke to me because I'd been doing consulting in web services for a couple of years before that, and all the web services that I had back then were technically interesting, but not at all exciting to a business person. You could do the weather or a stock quote or something across the internet. And as developers, we're like, wow, this is really cool. It just makes a connection across the internet. You'd show that to a regular person. They're like, that's not all that interesting. What's such a big deal? And so when I saw this actual useful Amazon web service, I suddenly said, this is really cool. It's something I think the world is ready for. And I got invited to this little dev conference at Amazon headquarters at the time. And toward the end, someone got up and said, I don't remember if it was he or she, got up and said, well, we're really excited with this first service we did. And the next step is we're going to start looking around the entire company and find other things we can put APIs on. And suddenly I'm like, wow, that's the whole future. I literally turned to another person and said, Sarah, I need to be a part of this. And she said, okay, we can make that happen. And before I knew it, I was part of this team called Amazon Associates. And I very quickly found my niche as deep diving on the technology and then explaining it to audiences. And that's what I really enjoyed just doing. I like to learn something in depth and then figure out how do I tell people about this?
Yeah, I mean, that comes across a lot in your Twitter feeds and your blog. It's about, I just love reading them when it's it's such a variety of things that you kind of cover in your interest, like you're talking about in your hobbies in the background. Lots of fun, different things that you can do. So, and someone's asked, beat me to it on the questions, but this show is all about kind of optimization in general, especially around mostly cost optimization, but optimization of resources at AWS. And so someone's asked this and I'll throw it up. So, what do you think is the most most important cost optimization service or opportunity customers should be thinking about right now? So kind of broad spectrum, what do you think is top of mind for you?
Well, that's a big question. And to me, I think it starts with knowing all of the things that you are running and kind of getting a sense of what am I running? What's the kind of rhythm of the through the day, through the week, of what scales up, what scales down, and like one of my I don't know if it's actually a hobby or just kind of a peculiarity, but I like to be immersed in information, and to me that would be the root of that. My answer to this question is, don't just go to your dashboards when something seems amiss. Just when you have nothing better to do, just take a quick peek at your dashboards and look at all those numbers and say, well, this is what everything looks like when I'm at nominal operating conditions, and that nothing unusual is going on, and I'm not under any heavy load. I haven't done any recent failovers. There's no recoveries underway. But this is just the background hum, if you will, of my computing universe. Like this is just how everything works, and I just want to know what do all the numbers look like under normal conditions.
I completely echo that too. And I know that people who have tuned in before hear me, I'm probably a broken record on this, but I always say if you want to optimize your environment, you have to have that visibility and understand like what the data means, what your usage is doing before you even look at different ways to save or cut costs. But we talk a lot on here about our KPI dashboard, the cloud intelligence dashboards. Such a great way to really learn and get a grasp around it. Even if you don't have a technical background, it really helps you understand what the cost and usage report is, what data you can draw from that, and what you can bring in.
Indeed. Yeah, and I love to surround myself with this information and just make sure I know what's going on. And that way you develop this kind of intuition for the rhythm of your systems. And we're not just limiting this to cloud or AWS, just all the different systems in your life. Just this little bit of intuition of, is it doing okay, or is it a little bit stressed right now? And if it's stressed, what might be a cause of that? And
yeah, definitely. I mean, my friends talking the other day, they've just installed one of those like energy hub things, but now they are constantly monitoring it, and they're like, oh my god, I'm spending so much money on my energy. But it is like interesting, and they can notice. I think someone told me some story about how they like noticed something was going up and they'd left something like charging or running that they didn't expect, and so it is that kind of thing. But I like that idea of kind of the day-to-day kind of getting a sense for it. That's not something that we talk a lot with our customers about, but I think that's a good way. I'm going to steal that and start sharing it with them when we talk about, because I've got loads of customers at the moment who are right in the middle of deploying the cost intelligence dashboard, and to encourage them to like keep looking at it, because we always say a dashboard doesn't solve your problems, like looking at the data does. Yeah, definitely. All right.
I think that Energy Hub is a wonderful analogy of, sometimes cost optimization isn't some big thing gone amiss. It's a little bit of a leak somewhere, and it's like, you left the lights on, you left the heater on somewhere, and it's just draining a little bit. But that little drain might be part of your scalability architecture, and under normal circumstances, it's a little bit of a drain. But when you scale up, you're leaking 1,000 things at a time instead of 10 things at a time. So knowing that's there, and then having that curiosity that says, that's a really interesting thing, and I don't quite know what to attribute that to, but I should take an action item to just go diagnose that. It's and that, depending on the severity, that might be one of those, not quite a hobby, but one of those like, I'll do this when I need to step away from the thing I'm supposed to be doing. Let me just take a look at these logs. Let me look at this, and you're still making forward progress, but you're doing something different, and you can get that little bit of satisfaction of watching you plug the leak and say, okay, now we're just a little bit better off than before, and that way you're running a tight ship, and you're not letting these things get out of control.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, a little question, very easy. What color badge does 20 years look like? That's a great question.
The 20-year badge is silver, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Really looking forward to that.
There's going to be a time when there's going to be
extent of what I knew color-wise.
Yeah, purple is 15. Red is 10.
I get my orange on in a month. I
Awesome.
think because I started right when you hit purple. And so I'm going to have to come back to Seattle solely so I can go get my orange badge.
Yeah, it's like 30 gold? Like, when does it stop? Platinum?
So I don't think they've even picked the color for 25 yet, because we're barely that old as a company. So I don't know that they've picked that color. Maybe they have.
Mm-hmm. That'd be funny. Imagine just like random
right
color.
Now. Yes.
Yeah. Just throw it in there like black or pink or like something rogue. It's just like get rid of the bright colors. It'd be quite funny.
It is interesting because we're not a company that's very much on big overt status symbols, but the badge color is one of those really neat little things, especially when we're in person, that you see someone's badge and it gives you a little bit of a sense of just how long this person has been around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. No, I like it. You can see a lot. Alex, did you want to flag a question?
I like I mean, there's so many great questions coming in, so please guys keep coming in with them. But I like oops, I just hit it as you showed it. Jeff, what do you think are the best mechanisms customers can use to control AWS costs? And I'll preface before we go into this, with Steph and I, we work with such large customers that sometimes it's really cool on the show to get that the perspective of someone who is the developer, who is sitting behind the keyboard, of like, what mechanism can they put in place that might not be this giant organization-wide mechanism, but can just be part of your flow and as you build.
Sure. And so that as you build, I like that, because I'm not someone who likes to just start from scratch and then conceive of some grand concept. I like to be very incremental in what I do. And to me, the first mechanism that you should do is you should put a billing alert on your account. And what I found works for me is I don't set it for the high water mark of the month that I'm expecting. I set it for about half of what I expect my bill to be. So right now, my personal AWS usage is about like $40 a month. So I have an alert that fires at like $18 or $19, and I expect that alert to fire sometime in the middle of the month. And if it fires really early in the month, it's like, oh, I accidentally started something up in my personal account versus my work account, or something surprising like that. But firing it really, really early means that you're going to know that the slope of your spend is not what you thought. And so rather than saying, well, you spent as much as you expected to spend, just knowing the trend and saying you're now on a track to spend more than you should have spent this month. So getting that early.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good piece of advice. I like that.
Yeah, I like not of give yourself some leeway with the threshold of, it doesn't have to be, because if you're already passing what you thought you were going to be at the end of the month, then you might that it might be a little late to set that alarm. And I'll post in the comments the link to set that up if anyone is interested. Yeah,
there's also some third-party tools that I run that watch my account. Can I mention any of those?
Yeah.
So there's a really awesome startup called Vantage that I've been watching the Vantage reports, and so I think I get a report from Vantage every week, and it shows me my spend, and it shows, so occasionally it'll say, oh, your forecast spend is really high, but that could be if I refresh the reserved instance, or if any of my way too many owned but not used domains are being renewed. but getting that early alert is really helpful. So getting the alert that says you are spending too much versus you have already spent too much. Very subtle difference there, but to me that's really important. And then one thing I've done occasionally, so I don't have a good camera view to show you, but above my main monitor here, I have another monitor mounted, and I run this open source software called Magic Mirror. And so Magic Mirror runs on a Raspberry Pi and has all these little configuration modules to pull in various kinds of data. And just as an experiment a couple months ago, I wrote my own little module that pulled in CloudWatch metrics. And it was very easy just to find the metric that shows that takes some of the various billing metrics. And there's a really awesome CloudWatch function that you give it you give it the metric query, and it just literally returns to you a PNG that you can display.
All right.
And so I wrote this tiny little Lambda function that pulled out these metrics and put them up on my screen. So if I had a more dynamic environment, I'd probably be able to and that way I can just look up at any time and say, oh, what am I spending right now?
That's really cool. I like that constant.
To me, this is just being immersed in data, and just with the sense of just developing this intuition for, are we doing okay, or is something just a little bit odd about what's going on here? It's almost like when you have an old car, and when suddenly it starts to make a different bad sound than usual, even before the car doesn't work properly. That little extra clunk or noise, or the extra little click when you try something, that's your early warning that says something's about to fail here. So to me, that mechanism of being aware of normal circumstances and of the regular quirks and hums and buzzes and rattles and so forth, that the software equivalent of that, watching your metrics, watching your logs, looking at regular data. I still think I remember back in my early days as a developer, and this is actually back in the days when I was in college. We actually use punch cards, and you write your program on punch cards, and you would submit them into the job queue, and they'd sit there for a couple hours, and then if it actually compiled and came back, you get the output. Otherwise, you get your syntax errors. So you learned how to be a very careful developer. You'd review your code very carefully because you get only a couple shots a day. But being very curious even back then, I would always get all of the operators manuals for all the compilers that we used, and I would find every possible option to turn on for all these compilers to have it produce all of the information about my program, and say, okay, I've detected this and parsed this, and I'm generating this code, and I'm doing all these optimizations. This goes back to I think our deep dive leadership principle of just really knowing what's happening inside, and that knowing, that curiosity and that knowing what's inside has served me so well for the last 40 plus years.
And on that, Steph is someone on our team that's kind of known for that, of like the curiosity of keep poking in the data. And I'll post the link, but Steph, I know we have the Kerr query library on Well Architected, but I know internally in our standpoint, a lot of times we will take some of that CloudWatch data and mirror it with the Kerr to kind of match and see, where those trends are. Do we have any public labs that show that, or?
Yeah. There's in the optimization data collector lab, which I can grab the link for. So that one, the biggest one in there is definitely the RDS one. And coming soon is one where we basically get all the information about the current RDS CloudWatch metrics, the utilization, and then we connect it with our custom usage data, but we're also adding a query, thanks to a shout out to Rem Zhenshu and Rosa in the team, which is going to say which instances could move to Graviton based on the engine type. So if it's already compatible. There's like a lot of things like that, but yeah, definitely. I mean, the lab that I'm talking about, Jeff, is basically collects loads of data into one centralized location. So it's got organization data, CloudWatch, Compute Optimizer, Trust Advisor, like so many different services. And then it's going to be in like a cost account so that customers can spin up dashboards, they can spin up Trust Advisor dashboard, Tau, their own. It's all about getting data into one place because, like you said, it's just good to have it as much. I always like to the same where I said this in my talk at FinOps, where it's like, if you can get all the data into one place, then you can always like compress it and kind of summarize the information, but it's so much harder if you don't have it to start with. Oh, and before we go off punch cards, my dad has told me about punch cards. He used to do that when he was at university. Shout out my dad.
They were actually a very nice physical, tangible representation of your program. And I certainly wouldn't want to go back to those days, but there was a really interesting discipline of saying, well, I've only got a few tries today. To get this code to compile and to run. So I'm not just going to experiment wildly. I'm going to do my best to make sure that each one of these 4-hour intervals is is as useful and productive as possible. And then if you could get to the point where you're actually you're working on a couple different projects or assignments at the same time, and you're kind of pipelining things through to get the best use of your time.
Yeah, definitely. I was coding today, and I was definitely much like test, and if it just failed, you're like, oh, okay, there's a comma missing, and you just keep hitting a nail against the hammer against it.
That's a totally different way to program. And for a while, it was like, oh, well, all this interactive compiling and editing, well, that's removing some of the discipline. And all us old timers, we were so much better at syntax checking. But if the computer can do it and make you more productive, ultimately, your goal is a finished program and getting to solve the problem as quickly as possible. So it was certainly a great way to learn. But can you ever go back to these kind of things?
No.
Probably
Please
not.
don't make us.
No.
This kind of links us on to another question. We had one earlier as well, which is a similar ballpark. But so after seeing Amazon grow so much since you've joined, what are you most excited about in the next 5 years?
Wow. So last month I was at the REMARS conference. That's machine learning, artificial intelligence, robotics, and space. And I came across really excited about the potential, not just for what's going on in all those areas, but really excited about just space in particular. I've been a fan of the space programs, the various space programs, since I was really, really young, maybe like 4 or 5 years old. And it seems like we've had like a lot of fits and starts of trying to get this permanent bases built in space and have it get to the point where it's really super, super routine. But it suddenly feels like after many, many years of hard work and experimentation and success and tragedy that we're now on this, like, about to get to this amazing point with space travel where we've got a lot of exploration happening. We're going to get bases built on the moon and on Mars. We're now at the point where you can go, for example, to Blue Origin and say, hey, take me up into space, and they'll do that for you for a pretty costly fee, but it can be done. And it's like, wow, we're suddenly we're getting there. And then I think the cloud is going to get to play along, like the recent announcement that we had the snow cone up on the International Space Station. That's actually very, very cool. And this idea that something that we designed and built at AWS, that we went through this qualification process and we got it up into orbit, and it was actually like running AWS code out there and in low Earth orbit. Like that's just really, really cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. Go on, Alex. Sorry.
No, I was just saying that's a whole different way of looking at it, taking it to a whole new level. I love so I know we're running close to time. There's a lot of things about graviton in here. Do we want to pop in a question on kind of optimization around graviton stuff? What do you want to cover that? I know we have a few that have come through.
Yeah. Well, I like this one. There we go. Let's throw this one in there. So what helps an organization get users excited about cost optimization with Spot and Graviton? Maybe just focus on the Graviton. We've got less than 2 minutes left, Jeff. Go on.
Wow.
Quick. I know it's gone fast.
Something that occurred to me earlier is that there's never any goal. There's never any finish line with cost optimization. There's always a new service. There's always a better way. And if you say, well, we've now got Graviton and we can put that to use, we can start lowering costs. But and it's hard to get like super, super amazing about like, wow, cost optimization. That's the most amazing thing that is going to like set me going in the morning. But being able to use brand new technology and saying, well, I learned all about Graviton and I got to reduce prices. That combination and saying by staying on the leading edge of the tech, I get to reduce prices. I think that combination, if someone's like, oh, that's just our accountant's problem and the company's got plenty of money, it's not as exciting as let's use the latest and greatest tech. And oh, by the way, I saved the company some money. I think that would excite people.
That's it right there. And goes on. Someone asked for a cost optimization tagline. That is the biggest thing. We can cut costs. We can turn things off all day long. But the real optimization is when you can get your teams excited about something new and awesome that, it's also going to save you money. And it's also going to make your application and your product even better and run faster and see new things. And I think that is a very important point to make.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Appeal to like the nerdy developers and everybody and get them excited about this idea of using fun new stuff. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. I hope you've enjoyed your time on the show. Thanks everyone who's watching and the questions. Again, always thanks. And if you have any questions after, feel free to email at cosmosmization.com or just comment down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. All right, that's it. Next week we're talking about RIs and savings plans. We'll see you then. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Bye.
See you later. All righty. Bye-bye.